Susan Campbell is the owner of Safety Net Consulting, LLC, in Lakewood. After growing up in Southern California, Susan moved to Western Washington after high school in 1970. She went to work right away for the Social Security Administration. After 4 years as Secretary and Service Representative, a better opportunity beckoned with another federal agency, the U.S. Railroad Retirement Board. From 1974 to 1989, she was involved in claims work for employees of the railroad industry, a retirement system which parallels but is separate from Social Security. This job required a lot of travel and responsibility for the claims work in 11 counties in Washington State and British Columbia. In 1989, Susan returned to the Social Security Administration as a claims representative, interviewing claimants from all backgrounds and walks of life. Made this the best job anyone could ask for. But soon, face-to-face public service eroded as self-service/no service via the internet became the norm of the Social Security Administration. In 2015, after 45 years of work with 2 different agencies, Susan knew it was time. After retirement, Safety Net Consulting was formed, and Susan went into the business of selling informed decisions about Social Security benefits. Susan has lived in Lakewood since 1988. Her outside interests include sewing, gardening, cooking, comfort food for a crowd, and traveling. Favorite trips so far: Western Caribbean cruise and Scotland.
Good combo.
Next stop,
Not at the
Ireland.
same time.
Ireland.
She used to raise and competitively show Siberian Huskies and is currently active at St. Patrick's Parish in North Tacoma. Ladies and gentlemen, Susan Campbell.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm Susan with Safety Net Consulting in Lakewood. And I'm now an independent consultant where I handle general information, specific information tailored to people's own particular circumstances regarding Social Security benefits, and I handle internet claims for people who don't want to try to navigate the system themselves. Today I'm going to discuss some of the most common misconceptions among people who are filing or receiving Social Security benefits. First thing I want to show you is some brochures. One is from Transamerica. The other one is from Raymond James. Here are some articles from Bloomberg News. More than respectable financial concerns. And as my friends in the financial industry will probably know, these are not cheap to produce. This whole book from Transamerica deals with Social Security benefits. The one from Raymond James has a 2-page article about Social Security benefits. There's about a dozen little orange flags in these brochures and on these articles. You know what those flags are? That's every place I found a factual error concerning eligibility requirements, entitlement, and computation of benefits. So, okay, I don't know where they get their information, but it's definitely not from someone who is trained in working with those benefits. They probably read the regulations and draw their own conclusions. At your own peril, okay? Now, my presentation today concerns, just like it says, stuff everybody asks about but don't know who to ask. And I'll give you a high sign when you
Okay, so
turn the page, okay?
All right.
You ready? Okay. One of the questions that comes up most of the time, or very frequently, is how are spouses' benefits computed? There's been some major changes in the law over the last year or so, and it used to be in certain limited conditions, a spouse could draw benefits when the worker was not entitled to benefits. That law was done away with a little over a year ago, and now in order for that spouse to draw benefits, the worker must be drawing also, okay, on either retirement benefits or disability. I have somewhere in my house a nice pointer. Do you think I could find it this morning? No. This is in my garage, so that's what we're using today.
It gets nicer than that because that's pretty nice.
Yeah,
It can reach us easier if we get out of line.
that's right. Like a javelin here. The spouse must be at least age 62 or any age with an eligible child in his or her care. Now, that child must be under age 16, or under age 19 and still in high school, or be permanently and totally disabled before that child reaches age 22, okay? Now, this is a category which those little flags that I just showed you in the financial agencies brochures there, this is the one that comes up most frequently. A divorced spouse. Now, if the marriage between the spouse and the worker lasted at least 10 years, meaning if your 10th anniversary comes and goes before your divorce is final, then that spouse potentially has eligibility on that worker's account for a spouse benefit. Must be at least age 62. Now, here's where the rub occurs most often in terms of misinformation. That divorced spouse must be unmarried at the time of filing for benefits. 3 or 4 times in this material right here, I see incorrect information that says if that divorced spouse remarries, he or she is not eligible, period. That's misleading at best. No. Intervening marriages, meaning from the time they were divorced and when he or she files for benefits at 62 or whenever, just be unmarried. Whether you never remarry or whether you remarry and divorced or widowed and remarried and divorced and widowed 20 times. Intervening marriages are immaterial. That divorced spouse just needs to be unmarried at the time he or she files. Now, if there were other marriages involved there, potential entitlement exists there. And what people at Social Security need to do is compare all these other marriage issues here. Did any of these marriages end in death? Did any of the other ones last at least 10 years before the divorce was final? Because there could be more than one work record involved there that divorced spouse could be eligible for benefits on. Okay, can you turn the page for me? Thanks. Okay. Now, how are spouse benefits computed? Now, we have a couple here, Dick and Jane. Now, let's presume for the sake of argument here today, an illustration, that let's say their date of birth is the same, which means that both of them reach full retirement age. So if I default and say bra, that's what it means. Both of them reach full retirement age in February of 2017. This is another term that Social Security might refer to in some of the literature that you get from them. It's PIA. Stands for primary insurance amount. That is the amount that worker is eligible for at full retirement age based on his or her work record. Now, Dick's PIA is $2,500, and Jane didn't work as much. Let's say she was a stay-at-home mom for quite a while. Let's say her PIA is only $1,000. Now, a question that comes up very frequently is, they say that I'm supposed to get half of my husband's. I'm not getting half. Why not? Okay. Here's the way the computation works, and it's more complicated than that. First thing that happens when we're figuring out how much is Jane going to get as a spouse, we divide Dick's PIA by 2. Half of 2,500 gives you 1,250. Now, from that figure, Jane's own PIA gets subtracted out of that, minus 1,000, and that leaves $250. All right? So, what is Jane going to draw per month at full retirement age? She'll get her own $1,000 plus this $250 on the husband's account, which means that the total payable to Jane at full retirement age is $1,250. Now, in this particular case, she does get half of what Dick's benefit is, but that's not always the case. Now, let's say Jane is under full retirement age and her benefits will be reduced. Let's say that Jane elects to take benefits at age 62. Now, her own $1,000 PIA is reduced at 62. She gets 74.583% of that, or roughly 745, that is based on her own work record. Now, the percentage reduction for age on spouse's benefits is a higher percentage than it is on the person's own retirement benefit. The spouse benefit, the $250 spouse benefit, is reduced to 69.583% at 62. So that 250 times 69.583% means that she gets $173 at age 62. So when you add the 745 on her own plus the 173 as a spouse, then that means that her combined total of the two at age 62 is 918. So it's a pretty good sized difference between age 62 and age 66. So what the person has to consider is, how bad do I want that money up front? In other words, you take a lower figure for a longer period of time, or you take more money for a shorter period of time. So the issues that people have to take into account are, number one, how bad do I need that money right now? And what is my potential life expectancy? In other words, by taking this figure at 62, usually you're financially ahead for about 16 years to take that lower figure for a longer period of time. Conversely, if you wait till age 66, then it's going to take you roughly 12 to 12 and a half years to recoup the difference. So if you figure on making it till about age 80, okay, you will probably be better served by waiting, and especially if you plan to keep on working for maybe a couple of years at least after age 66. Excuse me, 62. Okay, I have the next page. There we go. Now, this one is a real bear cat when you try to explain it to people, is widow's benefits. Okay? Always remember also, in terms of, the semantics involved, anytime Social Security says spouse, that means the worker is still living, and if they're talking about a survivor's benefit, they will say widow. Okay? All right. Now, nobody, I don't care what they tell you, nobody gets full benefits on their own work record and as a survivor, okay? In other words, what a widow or widower draws is the combined total of their own benefit plus the difference on the widow's benefits. Now, if the deceased worker did not draw any reduced benefits, meaning if he did not draw anything prior to full retirement age, or, for example, died before he ever filed, then that widow who is over full retirement age will get 100% of that worker's PIA, less any benefit that he or she gets on the own account. Now, if that surviving spouse, the widow or widower, is under full retirement age, then there's going to be a reduction for age that will be applied on that survivor's benefit. And it can be anywhere between 17.5% and 28.5%, depending on how much or how many months prior to full retirement age the widow is. Now, if the deceased worker did draw reduced benefits, if he or she did start drawing benefits, say at age 62, then if the widow is over full retirement age at the time of the worker's death, then it's the greater of 82.5% of the worker's PIA, or what he or she was drawing at the time of death. Okay? If that widow is under full retirement age and the worker drew benefits prior to full retirement age, the percentage varies, anywhere between 71.5% and the amount that the worker was drawing at the time of his death. Okay? Now, the other thing that piece of information that doesn't always get out, a widow or widower can draw as early as age 60. Not 62, okay? Yes?
Does their spouse have to have been over 62 or no?
No.
Okay.
Like if a worker died before ever drawing Social Security benefits, then this issue right here would be in play here, but his or her surviving spouse could draw as early as age 60, but that spouse or widow's benefit would be reduced for age. Yes?
So if you start at 60, and that's on your spouse's benefit.
The deceased spouse.
At your full retirement age, for instance, your would be higher, you could then.
You can then switch,
increase that.
yes, yes.
So that's sort of one of those unique scenarios, it's sort of like file and suspend-ish. Right?
Well, it's kind of in the same, no, it's not really, but it's always been a provision in the law that if there is a survivor's benefit involved, then that surviving spouse can elect the lower widow's benefit and then switch to their own at full retirement age, or even let it sit there and cook for the delayed retirement credits until age 70.
But even if your benefit never reaches the level of your deceased spouse's, then you're just locked in where
you can just stay right there. You can just stay right there. Exactly. That's right. Okay, turn the page more. Now, something that changes, potentially changes every year, is the exempt earnings amount. Anyone who's drawing Social Security and is under whatever their full retirement age is, which is based on their year of birth, if you're under full retirement age and drawing a benefit, you are subject to a limit on how much you can earn if you are working, how much you can earn before your Social Security benefit starts going down. If the recipient is under full retirement age this year, the exempt earnings amount is $16,920 for the year. Some people like to think of it in terms of a monthly amount, and that breaks down to $14.10 a month. You're not limited to this monthly amount. You can make the whole $16,920 in 1 month and then quit if you want to, and everything is square, or spread it out over the course of the year. If in the year that the person reaches full retirement age, the earnings restriction is much more liberal. It's $44,880 this year, which breaks down to $3,740 per month. Now, in the year the person reaches full retirement age, you're only subject to an earnings restriction until the month you attain full retirement age. For example, if the worker attains full retirement age in June of this year, then he or she can elect reduced retirement benefits in January, provided that the earnings January through May do not go over the $44,180 or $880. So in other words, effective with the first of the month in which you attain full retirement age, your earnings restriction goes away, okay? The worker who attains full retirement age in December of 2017 is still eligible for the higher earnings exempt amount for the whole year. Thanks. But that person means that they can draw in January, provided January through November does not go over that figure. So this is why I like to talk to people who are turning full retirement age this year, no later than the end of January, because sometimes they're surprised to find out that yes, they can draw benefits starting with January. They do take a reduction for age, but sometimes that percentage reduction for age is really quite minuscule. And people sometimes look at it from the standpoint of, you know what, I can do a lot more with having several $1,000s a month, a couple of $3,000 in my hand, by maybe taking $50 or $60 a month reduction for age permanently. Okay, so, okay, I'm gonna turn my page. Okay, Medicare, base premium this year is $134. People who have high incomes or incomes over a certain level now have a surcharge on your Medicare premium. If your modified adjusted gross income in 2015 was over a certain figure, and it varies with your filing status and what your income actually was, then you're going to have a higher premium than that 134. I call it the gift of the Magi, okay? So every year there's an automatic redetermination for the following January. But what you're paying in Medicare premiums is based on your modified excuse me, modified adjusted gross income back 2 years, and it takes care of itself, redetermines every year. Now, Mike talked to us a couple or 3 weeks ago concerning health savings account. If you have Medicare, that means you're not eligible for an HSA. Conversely, in order to draw Social Security retirement benefits, Part A is mandatory. It doesn't happen very often, and I only ever dealt with it once in my career, where somebody really had to decide, do I really want to draw Social Security benefits bad enough to give up my health savings account, okay? And to tell you the honest truth, I don't remember which way you finally decided. But in order to get Social Security retirement benefits every month, if you are 65, Part A of Medicare is mandatory. Okay, next page. Thank you. Identity theft. This is Social Security's website from which you can get benefit estimates, check your earnings record, get benefit verifications, and so on. And that's their toll-free phone number. Now, many websites are out there that purport to give you eligibility requirements and benefit calculators and try to give this kind of one-size-fits-all financial advice. Never, 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 except for never, use any website other than this one ending in .gov. The ones that end in .com, .net, or the .uk, .au, those are commercial sites, and the best you can hope for is to be on somebody's spam email list from now until the end of time. Many people find themselves in a lot of financial trouble because you get on one of these sites, you don't have a clue who you are giving your personal financial information to. So anytime you want to check your earnings record, get a benefit estimate or anything like that on Social Security, make sure you go to their .gov address, because that's the only one. If it doesn't end in .gov, it is not a Social Security website. Okay, that's all I got today. Any questions? No questions? I'm in luck. Thank you. Okay.